All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Ray Sidney Smith, and I'm the president of W3 Consulting and the managing director of W3C Web Services, providing affordable WordPress and web, as well as domain name registration and other types of web-related hosting services. And I want to bring to you every week this Web and Beyond Live, this stream of me talking with you about things that I think are important, that are timely and also relevant to marketing as a small business in the digital age. And so this week, what I wanted to do is kind of touch on three different things that I've just been noticing recently, and then we can make our way through. So the three things I wanted to talk about today are really the impact of the coronavirus, or that's been named the disease that causes COVID-19, and how it impacts the small business market today, how we're going to be dealing with marketing and the financial impact of these types of, they're not pandemic level, but potentially pandemic level. Right now, it's a public health emergency. It could become an epidemic and obviously become a global pandemic at some point. And because it's been in the news and there's been a lot of hype around it, I wanted to kind of talk about that issue. Then second is a little bit about the Facebook's new redesign, which is now rolling out more fully. And so you may be seeing this new redesign and how that will impact your marketing just generally, but how you'll interact with the new system and the new interface. And we'll want to talk about that a little bit and answer any questions you might have. And then I wanted to close out with talking a little bit about LinkedIn marketing and some things that you can do with regard to kind of upping and optimizing your LinkedIn marketing as a business. And so let's start off with the coronavirus. And so you probably have seen this in the news, but the coronavirus is a novel coronavirus that has come about, and it's caused all of these headlines about, cruise ships being docked, and the Hubei province, where Wuhan is located, where they believe that the coronavirus was originated, is a huge concern for everybody, both from the impact of the disease on individuals and populations, but really from my perspective, it's the impact on small business and how that will really, turn into either lower levels of marketing, because people are fearful of what's going on, lower levels of revenues, that is, because people are afraid of travel and tourism because of the spread of the disease, and how that's going to really impact some small businesses who depend upon people who are traveling and being in and around particular areas. So I just wanted to have a little bit of discussion around that. I don't think I have all the answers, but I think that it's important for us to all be thinking about it. So those of you who are watching are hopefully will have a leg up, both in what you're doing, but also in the small businesses that you come into contact with. I really want people to know that, one, it's one of those cases where you should always be marketing. And so if for some reason you see a dip in your uh, you know retail traffic or in your web traffic for a particular travel and tourism type business, that's probably because of the impact of your general marketing, not because of any one specific incident. And so we really need to focus on how are we on a regular basis, priming the pump so that we have consistent sales in the business. And that we know is consistent marketing. When times are good, we should be marketing. When times are bad, we should be marketing. And so often what I see is that businesses, both in sales and in service as well as retail, tend to get busy and then they stop marketing. And then they wonder why there is a slowdown at some point and that they don't have something to shore up that business, that part of their revenue drop in that period of time. So yes, there will probably be an overall impact in the revenue for travel and tourism because of something like the coronavirus. As we saw when MERS happened, as we saw when SARS happened, we will see these overall generalized impacts on revenues. But for the most part, if you're doing the right things in the business, you shouldn't see an overall impact, especially in a public health emergency. If it reached epidemic or pandemic levels, yes, we're all going to have to deal with the effects of that. But on this level where there's literally, a very low level impact on the global economies, we shouldn't see that kind of impact on the small business economy level. That being said, you should prepare yourself to, tell your customers what you're doing to be able to reduce, your whatever you need to do. I mean, I don't want to say you're reducing transmission of any virus, but what you're doing to be able to make it more safe for people who are coming to your business, letting people know that you're still open for business, especially if you have been noted as one of those areas where coronavirus has been found. That can turn off a traveler from coming to your area altogether. What can you do in your marketing, communications to gently intimate that you are doing the right things to make people safe and secure in coming to your place of business? So just some thoughts there. I think that again, a lot of this hype is overblown, and there's those sides of things. On the other side, if there are concerns about health and safety and catching the coronavirus, especially if you're a child or someone who has a comorbid issue, that is, you have one existing condition and then you get coronavirus, or if you're elderly, those are the populations that seem to be impacted by the coronavirus. And so it's certainly something that we should be working to resolve in terms of our marketing. We should be prepared for this, and we should be prepared for this going forward into this is not the last time this is going to happen. So if you're in a business that deals upon travel and tourism, you should really be considering how you address this from a public relations perspective every time it happens. You should have the same consistent messaging about how you're going to handle these issues and how you're going to communicate to the public when those issues happen, for this one and for every new one that comes out, from here on in. I mean, really, even the influenza season that happens every year in the north and southern hemispheres, and we have to communicate from a PR perspective that we're managing those things, and maybe having even a plan in place to manage those things from an operations perspective. So that's my 2 cents on it. If you have other thoughts, feel free to let me know in the comments, and you can let others know what you're doing if you are in the travel and tourism restaurant type business where you do see a lot of folks traveling from around the world to your venues. Let us know in the comments how you're dealing with the issues surrounding large, disease or just other kinds of issues that come up in that same category of emergency planning and disaster planning, and how it impacts your business. Okay, moving right along to the new Facebook redesign. It's funny because I've been waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it. My personal account just got the new Facebook redesign today. This morning it showed up and I was able to see the new interface in real life, and it is quite the change. Bigger text, simpler interface, and I feel like it's going to be a fairly nice new look to the Facebook redesign. And to the Facebook look, the redesign will look really much cleaner than it has. This is on the desktop, and it's been rolling out to users over the course of several weeks now. And so I'm really interested to see how this will impact others. But just as a couple of notes about how the redesign will look. So you'll have, in essence, less crowded stuff at the top, and you're going to have a cleaner interface up at the top. So instead of having the blue bar at the top, it's now going to be a clean interface. You'll have the Facebook logo. I guess if you're looking at it on my screen, I think this is your left if you're looking at my screen, and then you'll have the search bar, and then you'll have little icons that go across the top, and then the far right will include the settings gear icon. And then below that, we'll have 3 columns, and the 3 columns will be home, and then all of the various components or of the navigation. So, different groups that you're in, events, saved items, and so on and so forth. The center part will be your feed, which will, of course, include groups and Facebook Live and notifications and the marketplace, groups, and Messenger all in that center feed. And on the far right-hand side, you'll have some suggested items and then your contacts below that. And so it's supposed to really streamline and give you what you need when you need it. I think the Facebook news feed is going to take a reduction, and more group stuff is going to come to the surface. I think that's the notion behind it all. And but from what I've looked at it, in the 15 minutes or so that I had a chance to look at it, I really like the cleaner look. You have a light mode or a day mode and a dark mode option now when you start the Facebook new experience. So you can put it into dark mode for those folks who do like dark mode. I like dark mode in some scenarios. I don't like them in all of them, but that's supposed to be, in the new one, and I saw that in the new version when I did turn it on. And you're going to have some better options with regard to going live and supposedly buying and selling. So I think the marketplace is supposed to take a more prominent view in the space. So if you're buying and selling items, that's going to be more prevalent and more forward facing. But otherwise, I think it looks pretty good. I think that's going to be helpful for everybody if we use more groups and more group interaction, and that's going to just be a reality of the Facebook interface. Since if you're using Facebook pages as a small business, you in essence have to market and put more into budget for promoting posts and advertising particular content, whether that be advertising events that you're having or advertising the posts that are doing really well organically. Those are the things that are really necessary in the new design in order to be able to get higher up in exposure to clients. So Facebook redesign, interesting. I don't think it's really anything that's game changing. I think that it'll be really helpful to those folks who use it on the desktop. And we know that that's a small, not a small minority, but a large minority of users are on the desktop. Most people are using the mobile interface, and the mobile interface really looks very similar to the new redesign. So if you've been using the mobile application and you've updated that application probably in the last 6 months to a year, you're seeing a lot of the same pieces and components now matching what the mobile interface was on the desktop. So desktop and mobile will now look more similarly. That's more similar. That's a natural, I think, good thing for Facebook, and hopefully they can continue to do that. That is making both the interface on the desktop and mobile just be seamless. You shouldn't really have a difference of experience on the desktop from the mobile. You should have more options on the desktop because obviously you have more real estate and a full keyboard and mouse probably is attached to that. But on the mobile device, you have just usually a touch screen on a smartphone to be able to access all the features. So a little bit nicer to be able to have those lesser used features hidden away or not available on the mobile device, but the interface, the user experience should be the same on both of those. And I think that Facebook is working on doing that. So if you have any questions about the Facebook redesign and or what you're really doing, I'd love to hear comments about what you're doing on the Facebook platform today that has been different, say over the last year or so, how the Facebook algorithm has changed for you. I'm happy to engage in those conversations. So again, if you have any thoughts, feel free to leave a comment or question. I'll be happy to discuss those with you. And then last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about about LinkedIn marketing and what you can be doing with that. I was having a conversation with a colleague, and I was and the feedback was that I should change my profile header, the hero image above my profile. And thanks, Robin. And so I was thinking about how this year's plans to use LinkedIn really didn't come into line with how I was going to be using my LinkedIn profile, but really how I was going to increase the visibility of our LinkedIn company page. And we are, as part of Web and Beyond Live and just a whole company kind of process, we're bringing more and more online regarding marketing our web hosting and web WordPress hosting and domain services and so on and so forth. And so we really wanted to showcase that work on our company page. And that's not something that I'm going to be promoting or putting on my LinkedIn profile necessarily, on my LinkedIn, publishing from my LinkedIn profile. But from the company page, really wanted to spruce that up, and that that has had a proper hero image that matches all of our various other social profiles and so on and so forth. But there was a good comment that Robin made to me, which was, hey, you should get the blue constellation image kind of changed out and brought into line. And that brings up a really important point about where you market on LinkedIn really depends upon where you want to grow your community. And as having been a long time LinkedIn user, I mean, I don't know what number I was when I started my LinkedIn account, but it was enough that I got my name, my first name, as my profile name. So if you go to linkedin.com/in/Raymond, that's it. That's my LinkedIn, profile URL. And so I've been using LinkedIn for so long that I don't really think about my personal profile as being a representation of my business and vice versa, and I really don't want it to be. And so that means that if you're in a business that is very personality driven, right, and that is the case for me and a lot of what W3 Consulting represents, but on the W3C Web Services side, it's not. It's more of a commodity service business and something that anyone can take advantage of. If they're a business who needs a website, needs website hosting or domain that they need to register, they can go do that in a service process, and doesn't need me involved in that at all. I'm always happy to help, but that's not necessarily something that I'm involved in. That's the thing where when you think about it from a LinkedIn perspective, you start to think, okay, do I need to represent my business from the LinkedIn side, or do I need to represent the LinkedIn company side, or do I need to represent that from the profile side? And that will start to help you craft the strategy around what and how you'll do it. And I think that's the most important part that I think is important. The most important part I think that is that's salient here for the strategic implementation of how your LinkedIn company pages are developed and how your profile is set up. So that's kind of the first step, is how are you going to set up your profile and optimize it for the people who are coming to it. So I'm not sure how many people come to your company page, but very few people come to our LinkedIn company page. And what I would like to do is to increase that number. So of course, there's going to be some level of posting to the company page, and where it's appropriate, I'll be then reposting, sharing that content from the company page to my personal profile, so that people who are business related to me, which is almost all of the people in my LinkedIn profile, all of those connections are professional relations. Some of those are personal relations, but they have a professional connection as well. I'll then be able to bring those over strategically to the company page, and then of course let people know that. So you need to decide how much of that interplay between your profile and your company page is necessary. That's really bespoke to the individual business and the individual business owner. Do you represent most of your business? And that will make a difference as to whether or not you support pushing people to the company page or to the personal profile only. And of course, that means good images, high quality headshot, those kinds of things, so that you're representing yourself well. And so that's that. Two is making sure that you are going out there and getting those initial people who follow your company page. I think it's really important that you go out there and let people know, if you are creating a company page, that it exists, so that you get that first initial push of people who know, like, and trust you to go ahead and support your LinkedIn company page, so that you get that. Make sure to put this across your entire network, right? Put the buttons on your website so that people can automatically follow your page, and let people know if you have a newsletter or any other kinds of marketing collateral that you're putting out there. If LinkedIn company pages are where you want to spread people, go ahead and get people to know that that's available from those pieces as well. If you have any company and employees, you want to make sure that employees are attached to your company page, and at least have an additional administrator. So many times when I was helping in the LinkedIn support, for a while I was doing this LinkedIn support thing just to kind of stay on top of the LinkedIn world. I was volunteering, and the support realm was constant with people who were they had a single person who had an admin access to the company page, and then lo and behold, they lost access to that person. That person was terminated. That person left the company and no longer had control over their own company page, and therefore had to go through the rigmarole of attempting to gain access to it again. And it's very difficult. It's time consuming, and you're a small business. You don't need to go through that nonsense. So make sure you have a backup admin. And remember, the backup admins are not seen by the public, so you don't have to worry about them being portrayed. It could be a family member, it could be a trusted friend. It just needs to be someone in addition to you, or the person who creates the company page. So if you have anybody in the company who would feel the authority to create a company page, right? They're trying to do something good for you, save time. Maybe you ask somebody to do some social media for you outside of the company at some point. They created that company page. Make sure that you gain control and access to that company page before they go out of business or before they go on to their next project and they forget about you, and then you no longer have control over it. So make sure you have a backup. Make sure that you have control and you're good there. And then of course there's the content strategy side about LinkedIn, which is thinking about the notion of what is going to appeal to your audience as you design and get yourself up and running. So I think that it's just one of those cases where, for a content strategy perspective, understanding the types of content that you can provide. So one of the things that I've been really trying to get is I've been applying and very frequently annoying LinkedIn support about getting activated with LinkedIn Live. So LinkedIn Live is the live streaming platform akin to here we are on YouTube Live or Facebook Live or Instagram Live or Periscope on Twitter. All of these live streaming platforms are really important. And if my primary voice is going to be, important, if my primary voice is most important to people that I think are on LinkedIn, then I want to put the same type of live content that I'm doing here on LinkedIn as well. And I'm not able to do that right now. The best I can do is take this recorded version and toss it up onto the company page when it's done. And I really want to do this live on LinkedIn as well. And so I've applied. You have to apply for the program, both for LinkedIn Live on your profile, but also on your company page. So you have two different LinkedIn Live applications that you have to submit for one or the other, or both. I've done both, and not yet approved for either. So I'm hoping that they do it or make it generally available to everyone once that time comes. Also remember that you have the ability to post all kinds of content, very similar to Facebook, photo, video, text content onto the LinkedIn profile as well as company page. On the company page side, you have insights. You can actually see the analytics behind what's happening on your profile page. Unless you have a LinkedIn Premium account, you will not be able to see all of the data behind what you're posting. So just be mindful of that. The other part is LinkedIn newsletters. And so you can actually publish posts or articles onto LinkedIn. It used to be called Pulse. It's no longer Pulse. Now you can just write articles or posts onto LinkedIn, but they're longer form pieces, different from your normal posts directly into your feed, because the posts are presumably public to everyone. And LinkedIn, if it's featured, will take that post and put it into their newsletters to appropriate places and so on and so forth. And so you have that option. And then, of course, as I said, LinkedIn newsletters. Newsletters, again, is you hope that LinkedIn gives you access at some point. They have not given any indication as to a process. It's just by invite only. And so it's pretty opaque, the process. I have, again, written to several people who have LinkedIn newsletters, and I've asked them what the process has been to see how do you get a LinkedIn newsletter, because I would love to create a little 1-minute digital marketing small business newsletter for folks, but I can't because LinkedIn won't let me. So the next best option is to create a LinkedIn article and just publish articles for folks to be able to do. So it's a little bit different. I like the newsletter concept because when you are subscribing to a LinkedIn newsletter, it gives you a little push notification in your mobile settings. So you're capable of getting push notification. You open up LinkedIn, you're able to read it and comment. On the other side, if you are not on the mobile device, you'll get an email with the newsletter emailed to you, which is a kind of nice feature set of the newsletter function. So hopefully we get LinkedIn newsletters generally available. And if you have LinkedIn newsletters, let me know in the comments. Let me know your experience with it. I'm really interested to see how these both LinkedIn Live and newsletters really comes to pass. And then last but not least is the LinkedIn groups. And LinkedIn has done a lot in the infrastructure side to build up groups and to reformat them in a way that will be useful to the members of those groups, as well as I think the owners, in streamlining the management process. There are some features that I'm not seeing in their interface right now, so I'm trying to figure out LinkedIn groups and why it's not working the way I want it to. But the idea here is that just like with Facebook groups, the LinkedIn groups will become a more vital and dynamic part of the LinkedIn interface. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm speculating here, but I can see a lot of integration between Microsoft Teams and the LinkedIn group, since both are owned by Microsoft. And I can see a lot of those pieces starting to integrate really well and neatly together in the background. And that makes discussion more engaging and easier for users who are on the Office 365 platform and or on the LinkedIn groups. So I can see those pieces being very neatly packaged together. So those were all of my comments regarding LinkedIn. And so this brings us really to the close of this episode, or episode live stream, whatever you want to call it, for our time together. And if you enjoyed this live stream, please feel free to click the thumbs up button. I've heard that it helps. No, I teach people that it does help. It helps with the algorithm on YouTube to let people know, that the video that you're watching is of quality and that you want to see more of it, but also that it helps to bring new small business friends into the fold. And so thank you for hitting the like button. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment there on the YouTube page, there in the comments, or as a comment under the video once it's recorded, if you're watching the recorded version. You can always tweet at me at W3 Consulting, W the number 3, and then consulting. So I'm on Twitter all the time, happy to answer messages there. And I'm at W3 Consulting on Instagram. And of course, you can find me wherever else you type my name in. If you type Ray Sidney Smith into Google, you will find me wherever I might be. Again, join us every week here. We're typically around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Mondays, and then of course Eastern Daylight Saving Time when we're during Daylight Saving Time. We may change the time around a bit. I'm testing 10 a.m. right now. We may need to move it to another time if it seems to be more efficient in our systems for the regularity. But unless otherwise noted, we'll do that through the social media if we're doing it another time. But right now, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mondays. Thank you so much for spending time with me here on Web and Beyond Live. Again, I'm Ray Sidney Smith with W3 Consulting and with W3C Web Services. I hope you guys have a great week ahead, and here's to marketing your small business on the web and beyond. Take care, everybody.